Okay, so am I audible? Am I
Yes,
audible? Okay, so let us talk about these important topics. Okay, so okay, okay, so let us continue our class and our discussion on ethics and ethical dilemma. Just a little while ago, we had this. We already discussed about ethical dilemmas and what ethics, what ethics are, what is meant by ethical dilemmas. We just discussed those things. We will resume our discussion from those points here. Okay. So yes, let's begin our discussion on ethics and ethical dilemmas as part of universal human values. Let's begin this discussion on ethics and ethical dilemmas. Am I audible? Am I
yes,
audible?
sir, you're audible.
Okay, good. So let's discuss this session. Let's start this session on ethics and ethical dilemmas. So what is ethics? Ethics is what guides our behavior and what helps us differentiate between right and wrong. And ethics, it is concerned with what you can see on the slide also. It is concerned with topics related to fairness, topics related to justice, honesty, etc. These are the kind of topics which it delves into. One second, one second, let me- Okay, so let's now begin again. So we are just starting a session on ethics and ethical dilemmas. What is ethics? Ethics is what guides our behavior towards what is right, and it helps us differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. So our behavior, our attitude, these things are guided by ethics. Ethics is like morality, but you can consider this that ethics and morality, the slight difference between is ethic is a larger term. Morality, it flows out of ethics. Ethics is that larger umbrella from which morality flows. Ethics, it concerns itself with ideas such as fairness, with justice, with honesty, with responsibility, and so on. And it should be the foundation of our personal and professional life. In our previous sessions, we have discussed about slightly about ethical dilemmas also, about self-realization, self-actualizations. All these topics are related. And ethics is something that will guide us, that can be a source of deciding what is right and what is wrong. So, what are principles of ethics? Some principles of ethics we can discuss today that do not harm others. We should respect human dignity. We should be fair and just. We should act with honesty and integrity. And we should act with compassion and responsibility. Easy words, but they do have significant importance in our life in case, and we should follow them. What is ethical dilemma? This is the most important point here. What is ethical dilemma? We had discussed this thing in the previous session. What is ethical dilemma? When there are two or more different choices, and all of those choices are right. So we talked about that example of rasgulla and lauki ki sabji. Taking decision is easier, but if you have to take a decision between one sweet and other sweet, both those two things you like, then it becomes difficult. Or if you have to take a decision between whether you go for instant pleasure like eating a rasgulla, or whether you go for a long-term benefit or happiness like your health, then again also there is a dilemma. Though it is not an ethical dilemma, this example of rasgullas and laddu, they are just a metaphor with which we want to show that ethical dilemma is a conflict when both the two choices look right to us. No option is right or wrong. And then there is a confusion also which can occur because of competing values. And it needs moral reasoning to decide. I gave you that example of that soldier, like in border movie we saw the character of Akshay Khanna. It's a very very realistic uh, dilemma that occurs in the lives of soldiers. That a soldier who has only his parents and suppose only his only son or the only child of his ailing mother, and there is a war. Should he be a dutiful son or should he be a dutiful soldier at that point of time? Should he perform his duty of a soldier or should he perform the duty of his son? Both those two duties are right. Both of them are ethically right decisions. But a dilemma occurs because both the two decisions are right, and then there is a clash between them. What are the characteristics of ethical dilemmas? Any choice involves loss or compromise. Whatever decision you take, some loss would be there. So either he can go on the front and save his country, his mother would be lost. If he go and serve his mother, maybe the nation's security would be compromised. Impact is significant on self and others. Yes, impact is there on self, impact is also on others. So not it is not only you who are involved. The question involves not only you, but society also, and prominently those who are deeply connected to you. And to require and to solve ethical dilemma, we need to have deep reflection. We need to have empathy. What does empathy mean? Empathy means our ability to imagine and the problems of others and place ourselves in their shoes. Sympathy and empathy, they are related qualities, but there is a slight difference. Sympathy you do from a distance, आप दूर से देखते हो. But when we talk about empathy, आप उसके दर्द को महसूस करते हो, आप वहीं पे जाके खड़े होकर देखते हो उस स्थिति को. So empathy means when you position yourself at the place of that person. Next is why ethical dilemmas occur. We had discussed this thing also, that why dilemmas occur. Let us revisit them. That, for example, they occur when there is a conflict between values. There's a conflict between honesty versus loyalty. We took that example of Karn in Mahabharata, who could either be committed to his friend Duryodhan, that is honest, that is, he could either have been loyal, but if he was honest, in the sense if he was committed to the principle of righteousness, maybe he should have abandoned them and taken the side of Pandavas. But anyways, the conflict here is when there are two qualities and both of them are competing against each other. There can be ethical dilemmas when there are conflicts in our role. For example, quite often we will see that when you grow up, especially when you become a parent, your role of a parent versus your role of a professional, there might come a conflict between them. So, for example, suppose you are a teacher and or suppose you are a bureaucrat or suppose you join any profession and your child is also in that profession. He is a member of your team. Would you see your child as a son or a daughter, or would you see him just as an employee or as a team member? So, would you give any favors to him? Then there is a conflict between your role as a parent and your role as a professional. And also, when you grow up, you will realize that how it is important for you to be with your son or your child as a parent. They need your care and concern. But suppose you are a professional, you also have to fulfill your professional obligations. Should you be committed to your duty or should you be committed to your family? This conflict between job and family is a very common conflict that many people face in our life in this world today. Then ethical dilemmas also occur when there is a conflict between short-term gain versus long-term ethics. We had a discussion on temporary pleasure and long-term happiness. Likewise, short-term gain, something which gives me benefit immediately versus long-term ethics. So, for example, if people they pursue unethical means, if they indulge in corruption or any other bribery, immediately there will be a gain. But if they stay committed to honesty, that immediate gain would not be there, and but yes, long term they would have that satisfaction of being committed to ethics. Likewise, there is a pressure from society, there is a pressure from culture, there is a pressure from organization, and so on. Pressure from society occurs on all individuals in different places. Pressure from culture also exists, and organizational pressure also exists. Consider this situation. For example, when there is corruption in an organization, and you are a part of that organization, should you reveal those aspects of corruption to the larger public? Uh, because that is what your duty as a citizen is, or maybe that is what your duty as a person who should promote ethics in their department is. But if you reveal that, maybe your organization or your company or your institute will earn a bad name. So what you should do? We had several instances of people becoming whistleblowers in our country, and they sometimes have to pay hefty price for that. Like in NHAI, there was a whistleblower who was killed. Whistleblower, someone who reveals the the occurrings, the wrongdoings of an organization. Likewise, there can be culture pressure also, which can create a dilemma for you, and social pressure also. A very good example of ethical dilemma is if you have seen Bahubali movie, the protagonist in that movie, he was facing an ethical dilemma, whether he should uh, whether he should follow the wishes of his mother and the queen, or whether he should be committed and save the honor of his wife. So he was having this dilemma uh, between between his wife and his mother, between his wife whom he had protected to save and honor, and his queen and his mother. Uh, and how he resolved that ethical dilemma. If you notice that movie, that gives us a very good philosophy of life. When he discarded and abandoned his mother and the queen, when he went against his own mother to save and to honor his wife, he said to his mother that I am following the ethics that you have taught me, that I'm disobeying you, but I'm disobeying you because you at some point of time had taught me to respect my promises and to respect my wife. So in pursuit of the path that you had shown to me or taught to me at some point of time, I am disobeying to you. So this is how sometimes we resolve our ethical dilemmas. We also took an example of one of the biggest ethical dilemma that has been discussed in philosophy is the ethical dilemma faced by Arjun in Mahabharata, and whether he should support the righteousness and dharma, or whether he should go in and kill his own, whether he should protect his relative. So if he saves dharma, he would end up killing his family members, his relative. And to resolve that ethical dilemma, uh, Lord Krishna had to say something, and that in his words, it became the recipe for one of the biggest treatises on philosophy and religion ever written, that is Bhagavad Gita. We'll come to that in a while. So these are some more types of ethical dilemmas that we come across. Personal dilemmas, there are personal dilemmas, there are professional dilemmas, there are organizational dilemmas, there are social and cultural dilemmas, there are technological dilemmas, and so on. So all these kind of dilemmas exist in our life, in our world today. Organizational dilemmas, for example, as a country today, India, should we pursue capitalist mode of development, or should we pursue socialist mode of development? Professional dilemmas are also there. Technological dilemmas also are there. Should we buy? Should we invest? Should we buy fighters from Russia or from US, or should we develop our own fighters? So these kind of dilemmas, they exist in front of different organizations and different individuals at different point of time. Some more examples of ethical dilemmas, especially when you have a friend, for example, uh, whether you stay loyal to your friends even when they are indulging in cheating. Also, some example I took, like corruption. There is corruption in your department. Should you report that corruption? But if you report that corruption, you might lose your job. Your manager might terminate you. Likewise, telling the truth versus protecting emotion. Suppose one of your family person is living under some illusion. So if you reveal the truth to them, then you might hurt their emotions. So what you should do? आपको सामने वाले इंसान के इमोशंस का ध्यान रखना चाहिए या फिर सच बोलना चाहिए? बिकॉज सच बोलना भी एक अच्छी वैल्यू है, और लोगों से का ध्यान रखना, उनसे प्यार करना, वो भी एक अच्छी वैल्यू है. सो व्हाट हाउ वुड यू रिजॉल्व and what decision would you take? Because both the two decisions, they are right in their own spaces. Next is between privacy and safety. So privacy and safety is a very big ethical dilemma. So in for example, WhatsApp, it provides privacy, iPhone, it provides privacy. But should government promote this idea of privacy? But if it promotes privacy, maybe safety of our country can be compromised because of the kind of terrorist accidents that keep taking place. Likewise, equality versus family pressure. So ethical dilemmas, they occur when there are conflict. And these are some of the examples. Let us take some case studies. You see your close friend cheating in an exam. Should you report? If you report, you are showing honesty. If you are not reporting, you are showing loyalty to your friend. So what you should do? This is an example of a small ethical dilemma many of you might face when you are writing exams. Next is another example of ethical dilemma. An employee makes a very drastic mistake, a costly mistake. If he confess that mistake, if he takes up responsibility, he will be truthful. But if he is hiding, he is basically trying to avoid punishment. So should he go and embrace punishment, or go and should he hide it? So this is the conflict that he is facing. So there can be many examples of such dilemmas. Managers, they favor relatives for jobs. This is a dilemma. There is a reporting, whether you should, if someone reports it, he is ensuring justice. And if you are staying silent when your manager is favoring relatives or for any other reason, then maybe you will be able to promote harmony in the workplace. So what you do, whether you promote harmony in your workplace by staying silent, or do you report that matter to some other authority? But in that case, justice would be ensured. So these are some of the examples which we can see which exist of ethical dilemmas, and all of us face ethical dilemmas. As I told you, you are students. At some point of time, would be under pressure to go for a job. Should you take up a job? Yes, you should up a job because financial security is very important, and you should unload the burden that exists on your parents. But at the same time, many of you might be tempted to pursue higher education, which may not be so financially rewarding in the short term. So, is that a dilemma? How should you resolve the dilemma? Suppose you start loving a person, and suppose you want to marry a person because you have made promises to that person, but your family is not ready to embrace that person, especially because if there is a conflict of values. Should you follow the wishes of your family, or should you go ahead and fulfill your promise? So these kind of dilemmas exist in life of all of us in some way or the other. How do we resolve a, a dilemma? Resolving a dilemma is not easy. Remember this thing. There cannot be any way in which something is not compromised. Something would be compromised. Some sort of sacrifice we will have to do. But there are some ways in which can help us in resolving dilemmas. First is identify what those values are in the conflict, first of all, and that is why the topics that we were talking, self-realization and self-exploration, they are very important, because when you have explored yourself and when you have realized yourself, it becomes easy for you to identify that which values are more important than other values. So when you identify the values which are there in conflict, identify and analyze the stakeholders and the consequences. Stakeholders means all those people who would be impacted by that decision. Check the intentions and motivations. Follow natural acceptance. Follow natural acceptance means that yes, you should understand that yes, there are some laws of nature that you cannot disobey. And for example, death is something that is inevitable. That will occur to you. That will occur to your family members also, to your friends also. Everyone has to die. And if someone is suffering from a very a disease which has no cure, then pain is also inevitable, and we should be acceptable to this, and this is what is called natural acceptance, which is very important for harmony, and which is very important for important topic in universal human values also. And thereafter you should choose the option which is aligned to those values. Nishkam karm, what it means is performing your duty without any selfish motive, and this is a very iconic uh, idea of Bhagavad Gita in its shlok where it says that karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. You have to do your duties without attachment to reward. You should not be obsessed about your rewards. So ethical. So these are some of the ways in which we can resolve or at least address the dilemmas that exist in front of us. So what is the lesson to be learned? What Bhagavad Gita tells us that ethical behavior is compromised when greed, ego, fear, they dominate actions. Greed, ego, and fear. When you have to take a pledge, when suppose you become a government servant, or suppose you become a minister or some responsible person in government of India, you will have to take an oath, and that oath would be that you will act without fear or favor. fear or favor. Without fear, without favor. You will not try to do favor to anyone. किसी के फायदे का नहीं सोचोगे. And you will not be, you will not have fear. किसी से डरोगे नहीं. तो ना भय के बारे में सोचोगे, ना fear के बारे में, ना ही प्रेम के बारे में, ना favor के बारे में. When you're performing your duties as a professional. Okay, so ethical behavior is compromised. It is this. Ethical behavior is is compromised when you go for greed and you go for ego. ego होगा तो fear होगा तो it will be difficult for you. It will be it will be difficult for you to pursue your duties if you are staying committed to or in any way influenced by greed or ego or fear. There's a very famous shlok in Bhagavad Gita, and the idea is that lust, greed, and anger, they are three gateways to hell. Lust, greed, and anger. Because when lust and greed and anger, they influence your decisions and thought, you will not be able to take the right decision. So we should stay away from these three things. I repeat, lust, greed, and anger. They cloud our judgments. Okay. So now we will, in dilemmas, when there is dilemma, then always we should be taking up the path of duty and not personal advantage. Okay, so this was the summary of our session so far. That ethics, they help us take the right decision, right conduct, and ethical dilemmas, they arise when there is a conflict between values, and to resolve them we need clarity. नजर धुंधली नहीं होनी चाहिए. We need clarity, we need empathy. दूसरे का दर्द समझ सकें. We need to have this ability of reflection. Reflection means think about yourself properly or about the world outside in a proper way, and choose the path that is aligned with truth, fair, and dignity. Okay, so this was a brief uh, snapshot of ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemmas is a very relevant topic. Almost, as I said, all of us are impacted by ethical dilemmas in some way or other. Okay, so anything from your side, students, so far? Anything from your side? Okay, so uh, these are some important ideas which are there. They are related to our topic of study, ethical dilemmas. Okay, so uh, how do we resolve them? And ethical dilemmas, see, they occur in front of individuals, in front of organizations, in front of everyone. Okay, so with this, I will be wrapping up this decision, this class. I hope this was beneficial to you all. Okay, so if anyone has any problem or anything to offer, he can say it now. Oh, I did not record this session. I did not record this session. I wish I had recorded this session. So this was a session. I'll just show you the slide. This was a session on ethics and ethical dilemmas which we had. We discussed about ethics. We discussed the principles of ethics. We discussed about some examples of ethics and what is an ethical dilemma. That is when when there's a decision that you have to take between two or more multiple choices. There are certain characteristics of ethical dilemmas. Why ethical dilemmas occur? Types of ethical dilemmas. Examples of ethical dilemmas. Case study. We had 3 case studies. And how do we resolve ethical dilemmas? And this iconic statement from Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so with this, I end this session for now. Okay, let me end this session now. How was the session, student? Okay, so this was all. बच्चों किसी को अगर प्रॉब्लम कोई है तो कोई पूछ सकता है भी. So
सर
there are
आप
some questions. Okay. हाँ
हेलो
यस
सर.
बच्चों. हाँ हेलो.
सर ये अदर देन सेशनल 2 एंड सेशनल 1 व्हाट आर इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक्स फॉर एग्जाम?
बच्चों जो जो चीज़ें इंपॉर्टेंट हैं वी हैड दैट इन आवर क्लास टुडे. उसके अलावा देयर इज दिस one topic related to character and competence and character and capability. I had shared a video to all of you. There is a topic of what is the importance of gratitude. Why are gratitude important in a relationship? That is also one video I've shared for you. There's a one topic related to self and body. I, self and body, and संयम. संयम means self restraint. आप खुद को रोकते हो. I means self or body. So what is the relationship between them? How do you need to have self restraint to follow a more meaningful life, and especially your body? I think you will be able to write on this from the idea of harmony that we discussed. एक ये topic रह जाता है. And we talked about coexistence in our session today. Yeah, we discussed about coexistence. What is coexistence? That we have already discussed. And बाकी टॉपिक्स मैंने सारा अधिकतर करा दिया आपको. ठीक है. सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन, सेल्फ एक्सप्लोरेशन और एनवायरनमेंट के कुछ टॉपिक्स जो आज कर रहे हैं, हार्मनी, रिसाइक्लेबिलिटी एंड ऑल दीज टॉपिक्स आर स्लाइटली इम्पोर्टेंट. एंड दैट्स इट. आई थिंक इतना आप कर लोगे तो आई थिंक you would be and then a little bit about education, your thoughts on education, that how there needs to be the education also needs to follow some value system. Knowledge also needs to have incorporate some elements of values, human values, and some generic topics. So these are some of the things I think that will be very helpful to you. और कुछ बच्चे बताओ. Any other doubt? Any other doubt?
नो सर.
ठीक है. तो इनको आप टॉपिक्स को ठीक से करो. एंड कोई और प्रॉब्लम होता है तो फिर मुझे आप पर्सनली मैसेज कर सकते हो. ओके. ओके. ओके स्टूडेंट्स. ठीक है. जैसा आपको क्लास वाज बेनिफिशियल. क्लास ठीक थी.
यस सर.
ओके. ठीक है बच्चों. थैंक यू ऑल एंड क्लोजिंग दिस सेशन नाउ.
लैपटॉप तेरे बैग में लैपटॉप और पावर बैंक है.